Camera and action.
Today I get the privilege, and I don't say that as just a line, it's a privilege. And you'll see why. It's my privilege to be with Robert Bogya. I want to start by this introduction. I know normally we start with a word and we're going to get there. But if you lean into the essence of Robert Bogya, it will change your life. That's a pretty heavy statement. But you'll see what I mean. And for all of you who've been waiting this, that know Robert, that's why you're awaiting it, is you already know what I know. There are individuals that conduct themselves in life in a way that somehow make you get it. They challenge every bit of your awareness, and you walk away with a new idea that there's a bigger and more broad and more amazing definition of fulfillment than you knew was possible. Fulfillment is the word of the day. Two people can take a sip of wine. One doesn't notice it. One just has a sip of wine. But a different person understands the meaning behind the dirt that the grape was grown in and the sunshine, and why this particular section of dirt grows a grape like no other, that translates into this wine and this essence, and it all seems to be understood with simply a look on your face. You get the essence of what life is about, the fulfillment that is intended to be there for us all, that so many of us miss. You get it. Now, if I were to tell you and type it out, here's my introduction of you, and say, here, Robert, what do you think? You would go, oh my God, please don't say that. Which is why I didn't tell you what I was going to say. But that's my introduction of Robert Bogya. Thank you for being here. This is going to be awesome.
Thank you, Greg. It's an honor to be here, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Well, I contend that things don't come out of thin air. Somehow, some way, in the great blender of life, things go into a blender to create what I'm experiencing today, to create who you are that I get to experience. And I'm also of the mind that a lot of those things that create who you are went in the blender at a fairly early age. And so I would like, if you would, to take us back to your earliest memories of the scene and the spaces and the community and the people that made up your first memories as a kid. Where were you? Who was around? What was the feeling of your childhood?
Well, I grew up in a small town in rural Transylvania, which is part of Romania, the northwestern part of Romania. Small little town of about 4,000 people. A very tight community, where each house was built so they had like a front yard with a well, a water well. Everybody had their own water well on property, and then the backyard was sort of for the animals, and a horse stable or a pigsty, and behind the house there was a long garden patch where everybody grew their vegetables and their crops. So it was, if you looked from above, it didn't resemble. It looked like an octopus with the center of the town, and then just just the roadways going with no rhyme or reason in different ways. I would say it was an idyllic childhood that I had. I would redo it again. It really gave me this sense of community. Like the community was everything. Everybody was connected. Everybody knew everyone, and we lived within close proximity to our grandparents and our aunts and uncles. It provided this safety net where you just grew up indoors, outdoors. You were able to go anywhere you wanted without any fear, knowing that somebody was watching you, because everybody knew who you were in town, and my parents knew that I was being watched. So there was no fear of any sort of letting us just roam around and be kids and be free.
Do you feel, Robert, in this, we're going to come right back to this place, but as you look at what you do and how you think now, I see two words that you've just said that absolutely are themes to everything I know about what you do and create now. One, to create community. And I can think of several projects that you have that are all about community. Two, to create safe places where people have a feeling of community and safety in those places. This was hardwired in you back here, that this just was the way it should be.
It really was. It provided me with this sense of belonging to a place where everything just felt safe. Everything was. I'm sorry. Can we
keep going? Just ride through it. Yeah.
I left my phone in my pocket, and
no problem. Jorge will come and grab it. Yeah, I heard the buzzing, and that is it's distracting you. It
was really distracting me. So can I revisit that?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I believe that the community that I grew up in was a major part of who I am. It's my connectedness with my grandparents. They were watching us as kids. They were our nannies and caretakers. So I would watch them and learn from them, and interact with them, learn the traditions. My grandpa would take me out in the field, and then we'll pick different branches, and we would wean baskets. And these are the things that I grew up with, and sort of provided me with this sense of creating things out of what was available. So it helped me with being resourceful, and learning from the community, because not everybody had the same resources. For example, some of my neighbors would have cows, and then we would just walk over and get the fresh milk in the morning. And my family would have a larger sunflower field, and we'll have more sunflowers, and after processing it, we'll have more oil. So there was this trading exchange between the community members, where some people had more resources of this, they would trade it for other things. The safety just came from everybody knowing everyone, and and people would really watch out for each other. They would help if they saw someone that needed help. And the way the community was functioning is that they would do things together. I remember when my parents were building their house. Back then, you didn't have credit cards, so you had to save up to be able to buy the materials and start a project like that. But once you had the materials, then the labor force was sort of free, in a sense that the community got together, friends and neighbors. They would gather and work and help build the house. Like, they would only have to hire like a lead carpenter or masonry in this case, and the rest of the help was just coming from the community. And my grandmothers and my mom, they would provide the meals for these people. So at meal times, everybody would sit down and they would have a good time. They would be drinking some homemade wine and eating good, fresh, home-cooked meals and continue on working. This really defined, I think, how I think today and how I work as I like. I like working with people. I like working with creating projects that involve others, and really the best was for me that I grew up knowing that these were my roots. Like these were, and I was loved and cared for anywhere
Anywhere you went.
anywhere I went, and I always had a safe place to go back to, and connect with these people.
Contrast this. Again, we're going to keep coming back and then going forward, but it just isn't lost on me how in our world today, people will promote and gather for a day. Let's say a big corporation will say, hey, we're going to do this today, all the members of the corporation, to go help in this situation. We're going to take 5 or 6 hours of our working day, and we're all going to have the t-shirt on, and we're going to all go do this project and help somebody in need in a community. And we're going to call this a team bonding experience that we join and we do this thing for a day, and then we'll come back to the boardroom the next day and reflect on the lessons of the bonding that happened in that we worked together serving somebody. It's almost like an event that has a purpose. It's team bonding is the purpose, and we go do it for a day, and we get the shirt, and we take the picture, and we post it, and there we learned something. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that isn't an amazing thing when people do that. But what I'm saying is that this wasn't an event. This wasn't a next Thursday from 10 to 4, we're going to do this once. This was your life. This is how people lived. This was who they were, not who they were hoping to learn and become. Mm-hmm. And I just look at the world that we live in today, and there seems to be more a sense of fractionalized direction, individuality, every person for themselves, and this idea of community and joining and helping is really at the heartbeat of how it should be. That I can just feel it. Like that's the right way to do it. Not this Lone Ranger stuff where everybody's just slashing and dashing on their own, and I feel like there's this sense of that right now, that people are starting to understand that we're not meant to live this individual Lone Ranger way, and everybody's got their own thing and their own vision and their own thoughts, and that we're better if we just care for each other.
Right.
And this hardwiring, it's so in you that you've continued to live that in pretty much everything you do. And it's why people warm their hands on you. It's why they're drawn to you. It's like, how are you doing this thing called life so differently than what you see around you all the time? And this, to me, is the essence of that difference, is this sense of community, which creates safety.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. Tell me about your parents.
Well, my mom and dad, they were 5 years apart, and my mom is actually she's living here in the United States now. She's here, and my dad had passed away early on when I was a child. But they were just the most amazing parents that I could have asked for. They were loving. They were just there for us, and I can say that I always admired and loved their interactions with each other. They respected each other. They looked at each other like no one I've seen, with love and appreciation, and sort of that that admiration stayed with me, and that became a belonging of mine for my relationships. My dad was he was the first one in his family who would get higher education. He was able to get a technician, an electronics technician degree, and he became a radio, TV, and electronics repair person. So with this, he really carved a new way for himself, and really created just a lot of opportunity in my hometown in a way that he was the first one to step out and sort of see the world. Back in the day when they were growing up, Romania was still a communist country, so you couldn't leave the borders. You could travel within the country, but most people just stayed put within their village or within their counties. But my father traveled extensively to the different cities to get his education, and he became sort of this trendsetter in town. He was the first one to own a motorcycle and drive it through town, and he was the first one to bring a TV into my hometown, which was this like the early stages of the TVs, the CRT TVs with the lamps and diodes. And I think of him as somebody who really brought the world into people's lives, because nobody could travel, but with him bringing in the television and just opening up this new world where information was flowing in. It really helped others to get a broader perspective. I remember he was a very charismatic person, just beloved by everyone. He had this innate sense of calmness in him, and a really good sense of humor. So he was always the life of the party, and he was remembered and respected in a way, like even the town's gypsy band would come and serenade him for his name day or his birthday. Like it would be, we would just hear the violin and the accordion outside. It's like, oh, it is my father's name day. Truly remarkable person that unfortunately was taken at a young age when he was 40, and I really was drawn and I idolized him all throughout my childhood. It's probably because, I don't know, deep inside maybe I knew that he might not be with me, but I was really drawn into it. It's very interesting, and to say this, but like all of my early childhood memories are mostly with my father, and then I know that my mother was present, but I just don't have those vivid memories that I have with my father for some reason. And then when he passed away, he was 40. I was 13 years old. I was devastated. My life was upside down. Was very angry with the world. But it really, after a couple of years of a battle with everyone, with my mom, with my grandparents, I really came into forming a very strong relationship with my mom, and she became my best friend, and she became my most solid support throughout the years, and it really helped me. I guess the events they helped me form just a very unique relationship, respectful and cherishing relationship with my mom.
You know, Robert, the impact that someone, well, like your father in your case, had, it's forever. The way you describe him, the imprint that was put on you with his charismatic way, with his entrepreneurial way, with his life way, and the way the community responded to him, it created a model for possibility in your life. And I think it's probably doesn't it can't be lost that this is how people react to you. It sounds so much like how people reacted to him, that and you're a quiet, deep water person, but when you say, well, he was the life of the party, that was his charisma, you are like the lifeblood of so many people. You're the still water that brings the life. And so I really think maybe the processing of all of this, you've got the best of a lot of worlds. Tell me more about your mom now. I know you've been very much a part of bringing her here, and that you You have a property that you are both very, very involved with every day. Tell me about her today.
She became an entrepreneur herself. Interestingly, for most that I remember as a child, she was a stay-home mom, very active, reading and doing a lot of hand work like knitting and tapestry. Um, and then after my father passed away, she started working as a bookkeeper at the local school. And then also later on, she was doing bookkeeping for several companies. At some point, I think she worked for more than 20 companies, just to provide for my brother and I growing up, and to send us to college, and to really be there and step in, so we didn't feel the loss. Because when my father, because of the industry that he was in, he had access to some privileged goods, I would say, like back in the day, like this, I'm talking about early 70s, mid 70s, late 70s. The people that owned TVs back then, they were either part of the government network or more affluent people that had access to things that others don't have. So I would say that as a child growing up, we had a good life, and he provided a lot of things. So my mom wanted to keep that. So she put a lot of work and effort into it, to try to maintain the lifestyle. So after college, I came to the United States, and then when I became a citizen, again, my engraved blueprint told me when I was expecting a child that how I'm going to raise a child without a village, without having grandparents. My wife's parents were out of town. I didn't have anybody here, so I did not see any way of making this work. I mean, yes, there are daycares, there are nannies that you can hire, but in my head, the only way this worked is that you were involving the grandparents, and you were involving the community. So
I want to like make everybody pause and write this down. How can I be a parent without a village? Almost unthinkable in your mind. How would you even approach that? And of course, I think of single moms everywhere. I think of, again, all of the challenges we face. If you were to raise a child with a village, wouldn't that solve a lot of things that we deal with right now in society? I mean, it just isn't. I think it's worth just processing for a second. But you knew it. What do you do? And so okay, we've got to create this, right? So keep going.
Well, and the only way I saw this working is that in one way I bring my mom here so she can be our nanny to our son Oliver, and back then she actually had some health issues and was not doing well, so she had an early retirement from bookkeeping. And when I became a U.S. citizen, I was able to file for her paperwork and for her immigration paperwork, and she came over shortly after my son was born, and became the primary support and nanny for Oliver during the week when we were working. And then on the weekends, I was trying to involve and integrate her into society. So we were looking for some jobs that she could do. She was really good at baking, making all sorts of amazing meals and pastry. So I was, the way I know is with, you have to go to the places where you want,
Where you can contribute.
well, you can contribute. So
Right,
I was
right.
taking her to all of these amazing pastry stores like Papa Haydn's and New Seasons, and it's like, well, I have my mom here. She doesn't speak English, but she's an amazing chef. Like, she's an amazing baker. You need to hire her. And they would say, well, fill out an application and we'll go from there. It's like, well, yeah, this is not working. Um, and at some point I just thought about it. It's like, well, what if I reached out to my community? By then I had been living in the Portland area, and I had a good sense of the Romanian and the Hungarian community. So we went to the Romanian Baptist Church one weekend and met the pastor. He was greeting us just like everybody else on the way out, and asked, since we were new to that church. He asked my mom like where she was from, and it turns out that the pastor's mother was from the same town as mine, and his father was from the neighboring town. So instantly we connected, and then it's like, how can I help? Is there anything that I can help with? And yes, we were looking for a job, something purposeful that will give a little more integration for her into the community. And he said, well, a lot of the Romanian families own senior care homes, and they're always looking for help and personnel, and those are exactly the qualifications that are needed to be successful and care for the elderly. So just right off the bat, we met with a couple families right there that day, and then she was working the next weekend at a senior care home, and then she was filling in for other care homes. So practically, she did that on the weekends, and then while watching and caring for Oliver during the week. And after a year, she approached me, and we were sitting in her little nook, and said, "Son, I think I can do this better. I think there's more that I can provide. Not that what I've seen is not good. It's just there is some extra that I can do." And I said, okay, well, I think let's partner up, and let's open our own senior care home. I have some knowledge in real estate, and you have knowledge in caring and
Running that kind of facility.
running a facility. Now you have the experience. I think this would really work out. We have a mutual trust, and we know our work ethic. That yes, let's partner up. So that led us to finding the perfect home for a single residential senior care home that cares for 5 elderly or disabled residents on the banks of the Willamette River, and it's been it was on January 14th when we closed on that property 10 years ago. So it's been 10.
This is literally at this taping. We're at the 10-year anniversary.
We're at the 10-year anniversary of finding this amazing
Wow.
this amazing home that we remodeled. We had to turn into an accessible, wheelchair accessible facility, go through state licensing, and open our senior care home.
And your vacancy over all those years is essentially, there's been no vacancy. You've cared for people until on many occasions they have passed, but there's a waiting list of people wanting to come and fill those spaces
Right.
because of the care.
Yeah.
And what you've created there is this community that comes back to that word, because I've heard a lot of details around this just for fun, talk about Christmas time at the senior care facility that you have, and the ships and the boats and families coming and paint that picture, just how amazing this is for them. It's their home. It's their kids' home. It's really awesome.
It's sort of serendipitous that the first December we owned this facility, and we just had our first resident move in early December of 2014. I did not know about the Christmas ships, that the fleets that were on the Willamette and the Columbia River, but it turns out that every year people decide to decorate their boats. There are some sailboats. There are all sorts of boats that they decorate with lights, and they go down on the river. And it happens right before Christmas that the Columbia and the Willamette fleets join, and they come all the way down and turn around upriver, just upriver from us, and put on a parade on the river. And then we thought that, well, let's make this into the care home's Christmas celebration. Now we have the ships, and we're just going to open up our home to the families of our elderly residents and some of our friends, and we make all the meals, prepare them at home, and have this amazing evening of just laughter and community, and playing music and turning the lights off and just watching the beautiful lit up Christmas ships cruise by. And it's such a fulfilling to have been able to provide this to the residents. Because when I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. When the way I found this property, it wasn't by accident. It was very, very intentional. Like I'm drawn to water, and like everybody else is drawn to water. We all want a vacation at the ocean, or we are going and renting cabins at a lake, or going fishing and staying by rivers. So we're all drawn to water. So I thought that I want something special. I want something special for the elderly that is close to water. So I was purposefully looking for properties. Like I would spend weeks looking for properties along the river. It's like I identified all the water bodies in Portland. Like, okay, there are two rivers, Columbia and the Willamette, and then we have Lake Oswego. So quickly, Lake Oswego was out of the question because there are multi-million-dollar homes there. That's not gonna go with this small business at first. But then I started going up on the Willamette River and clicking on properties on Zillow. And I came across this one evening that was a listed property 2 years before. So then quickly I realized that, there was an intention for these people to sell the property. So what if I just got in contact with them and then revisited the idea? And that's how it happened. I called my really good friend Deanna. She's a fellow power player, an amazing real estate agent down in the Oregon Valley area, and she helped me get in contact with the listing agent. But ultimately, I was sitting down with the sellers at this property at the dining room table, overlooking the river, and negotiating it. And nobody else was in the picture because the property was not listed. So I could take my time to figure out whether this property is going to be good for care home purposes. So I had several friends that own care homes come in and take a look and give their sign off. I had some contractors come in and give their sign off. I contacted the county's licensing, the DHS, Department of Human Services licensing office, and found out that yes, you can turn this facility into a care home. And then I put everything in contract, and several months later, closed on the property. And during this time, right across from the property, there is a park, the Lake Oswego Foothills Park, and there's a trail that goes into a rotunda, which is straight across from the care home. And I would go there and sit there and sort of wave. I was waving at the residents. Just visualizing.
Visualizing. Ruskin says it this way: dream lofty dreams, and as ye dream, so shall ye become. Your vision is the promise that shall at last unveil itself. Does that sound pretty accurate to what you were doing from the park?
That's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was visualizing the residents sitting on the porch.
Right.
I was visualizing my mom bringing out the meals for them and waving at them, and they are waving back.
Absolutely awesome. And the idea of that to me, as I hear this evolution of your mom and that relationship, and what is she good at, and how one pursuit leads to another, right? You start where you are. Let's check out where she might be a baker. Why she has this talent, which, okay, the door shut, which meant keep looking. What else? And the community, and this community really majors in senior care facilities, and how that led to an internship, although it may not have been defined at that time as an internship. Right. It was, which led to a clarity of intention around, I can do this and do this, I think, better. And here we go. But I think that I'm coming back, and I'm certain I'm going to do it many times, because there's several other projects we're going to talk about that have this theme, Robert, and it's fulfillment. There's a lot of objectives under the heading of fulfillment. What does fulfillment mean? But in very general terms, as a real estate entrepreneur now, full-time, and we'll get to that transition of what led you there, But there's objectives as a real estate entrepreneur. Objectives of performing property, of cash flowing property, of equity growth, of all of these various objectives. But here's this very, very personal objective of community. This very personal objective of connection with your mom and community with your mom in creating community. And these very subjective yet deep and important areas where without these attended to, fulfillment as a big word doesn't happen. You can have performing assets that are seen as a pain in the ass because they don't do anything good in life. I just talked to a businessman last week, spent some time with him, who created a product that from a financial standpoint is off the chart. But it wasn't fulfilling. Matter of fact, quite to the opposite, that it was unfulfilling as to what it was doing to people in society. It didn't resonate. It didn't feel, it was in conflict with fulfillment. And so although it made all the money in the world, there was more there that was so missing. I love that in a sense, fulfillment is when you have it all. Mm-hmm. And this perfect chord of a property and all of what that is about, meeting a calling, filling a need, creating the community piece. Wow, how does it get any better than that? It just, and maybe it's that fulfillment that you resonate that peace in your life, and you continue to seek that fulfillment. Tell me about, and I know it's a segue, but I want to go back to coming to the United States, getting educated, a day job that you threw yourself into knowing and knowing well, a career that you became very, very good at, leading to real estate. And then once back in real estate, I want to talk about the International House, which is another property that fits this fulfillment equation that we're talking about in every way. Could we go back there to your education and how that work-life progression led to real estate?
Wow. Well, where do I start? I was an engineering student in Romania, and I was the engineering degrees there are a 5-year degree. So I was between year 4 and 5 when I first came to the United States. It wasn't really on my radar, but I had some friends that came to the States before with this visa program called Work Exchange, J1 visa, that allows international students to come here and work for 4 months legally, and then they can travel for another month. So that was my first trip to the United States, and English was near. Yeah, I did not speak fluent English at that time, but it also being in an English-speaking community gave me this opportunity to get better at it. So it was part of that process of, okay, I'm just going to put myself out there. That's the best way to learn is by immersing myself, and I'm going to make some money during the summer months and take that back home. So that's how I got exposed to U.S. I worked for 4 months in Wisconsin, in Eagle River, Wisconsin, starting a night shift at a laundromat, and then I at some point quickly on I had like 3 jobs just because I wanted to maximize the time that I worked during those 4 months. So what that showed me is that if I showed up, if I said, if I did what I said, if I delivered, then people respected me and people counted on me. And quickly on, I took on different roles within those areas that I worked.
Pause to a world that says, "Oh wow, it's so hard to get a job these days." Here you show up in a country you've never been to. You don't know English that well, and within short order, you're working 3 or 4 jobs. I just want to underscore that. How are you able to do that? And yet there are people everywhere saying there's just no work out there. But you just defined why there is work for someone like you. You show up. You're dependable. You deliver what they ask you to do. Wow. Take it from there. I just have to make sure that these little sound bites are not lost on people that, oh, they're out there. Jobs are out there for somebody that wants to work and that is willing to do good work, show up on time, and perform.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Keep going.
That's what happened is that I just did my very best, and my goal, I feel like I had higher goals in the sense that back then I knew that my mother was making $100 a month working at the local school doing bookkeeping. That's why she needed to work and have other companies to supplement that income. But I knew that I needed to figure out a way how I could make $100 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with a $15 hourly wage at the beginning, that meant a lot of hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I knew, that I had to work a lot of hours. I had to show up a lot of hours to make that goal happen. So that was the big motivator for me. That just I couldn't settle for anything less. So I worked probably 2 nights at the laundromat, and then I would go home in the morning and lay in the grass and just enjoy the sunshine a little bit, take a nap, and then I was out on the quest to find my second job. And I just showed up. Like, this is a good reminder for me to always look first in your surrounding. Like, we're trying to go places and reach out to the unknown. But I think first we have to reach in within the community, what's surrounding us, and let's see if we find the resources there. So I remember on the way to the laundromat, I had a bicycle. There was this resort, Eagle River Inn and Resort, and I just walked in, and I showed up at the front desk, and I said, "It's like I'm here to work." It's like, "What can you do?" It's like, "Well, I can do anything, really. Where do you need me?" It's like, "Well, we need a dishwasher." It's like, "Great. I know how to do that." So that's where I started. I started dishwashing, and then quickly I moved up to be a line cook, and then I moved up to be a server, and then they saw that I have some capabilities that I can fix electronics. So I was repairing some heating systems and air conditioning systems. So it's once I was in that environment, I was able to show them what I was capable of, and
Right.
And I was always dependable. I was they could always count on me. So that really formed some amazing relationships. I'm still friends with all the people. I call Eagle River my birthplace in the United States. And all of those wonderful families that I met there, I'm still connected with them. So after that first summer that I spent in the United States, I went back to Romania. I finished my degree, and I knew that I wanted to come back to the States. And I think just going back to why I felt that I needed additional education in the United States, is because the second time I came back, that was in 2001. My wife Mandy and we lived in Kansas City. My ex-wife now, but we lived in Kansas City, and I couldn't find any jobs with my resume stating Technical University of Cluj-Napoca, Romania, automation, engineering, and systems control. I would send in my resumes to a lot of engineering firms, but no response. And this was interesting. I joined a temp agency, and they sent me to deliver mail to one of the engineering firms in Kansas City. So I was a mailman practically. I would pick up, they had several buildings. I had like a little Astro van, and I would pick up the mail and go between the buildings and just deliver the mail to the engineers.
A highly qualified mailman.
Yeah.
They only want the best there.
And I would look at these engineers. They had their feet on the table, and I'm just like, can you just move your feet a little bit so I can set the mail down? I didn't say that, but I thought to myself, like, well, I have the same education as, or similar to what they have, but I need to find a way of me being in that position to have my feet on the table. So how do I do that? And it was interesting because I would always be polite. I would greet them, and some of them were responsive. Some of them were in their own world. But there was one particular gentleman who I had a conversation with, and he's like, well, I just overheard you as I was walking in. You were taking out the mail, and I overheard that you were listening to classical music. It's like, I never heard any mailman listen to classical music. Like, what's your story? You're different. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't like to listen to the news, so I turned into the classical channel. But so I had a conversation with him, and I told him that I'm looking for an engineering job. I have a degree from Romania, and he said, well, let me look at your resume. And he took a look at it, and he said, it's like, the one thing I see is that it was a hard time really in 2001 to find anything in engineering. But what he said is like, you need to have a higher education in the US, because nobody knows what kind of degree you got in Romania unless you get inside a company and you know somebody. They're not gonna look at your resume. They're gonna look at it. Oh, yeah, I don't know what this means or where this place is or what kind of education it is. So they're gonna put it on the bottom of the pile. So that planted the seed in my head. It's like, okay, I need to go back and get a master's degree. And then I put things in motion. I researched what I needed to do for that. And I started studying for my test of English as a foreign language. That was one of the requirements if you were not an English speaking or, English being your first language person. And then the GRE test for the graduate record examination. So I put those in motion, and then I got my TOEFL test that I passed, and then I was going to go get the GRE certification as well. And then we decided to move from Kansas City. It just wasn't the scene for us. It was flat. It was it was humid in the summer. No hills. I grew up in Transylvania, which is surrounded with the Carpathian Mountains and hills. Like, this is living in the Pacific Northwest is really where I belong to. It reminds me of where I grew up, of that environment. So we decided, we need to move to the West Coast, specifically to Oregon. It seemed very appealing. So we packed up and moved out to Oregon, to Roseburg, which is down on I-5 South, and then I just continued my quest. Like, well, I need to get my my education. So I started what I know best is putting things in process, putting things in motion, and I started connecting with professors at different universities and asking for appointments to meet with them to see if my background aligned with their research areas. And I was able to connect with a professor at Oregon State and set up a meeting. And I was chatting with him in his office. And after like a half an hour, he's like, well, I don't necessarily see that your background fits well with where my research area is, but my colleague does the same exact research that you've been educated in. So let me call him up. And he calls him up, and Dr. Magana shows up, and we start talking about my experience and what I'm looking for. And he says, well, I just happened to have an opening because I had a graduate student from Mexico that started working on this research project, who came over and left his family, wife and 2 kids behind, and he came over by himself, and he was missing the family. So after 2 months, he decided that he just can't live without them, and he couldn't bring the family over, so he went back home. And so he was without a student, and there was nobody to continue the research. And it was aligned exactly with what I've studied and what my focus was in automation systems and control engineering. And it's just this serendipitous meaning of him having to find a student and me coming into the space looking for higher education that it was the right match.
Now, you use the word serendipitous, Robert, and without question it was, but there are those that are deep thinkers. Rumi comes to mind, that says that what you are seeking is also seeking you. This intention that drove you to contact a professor, your your connective skills and heart that they now become your advocate. And even though that door wasn't open with that professor, he said, my good colleague is studying and knows well what you're studying. Let me be an advocate to open that door. And then as it turns out, oh, wow, an opening just happened. I would define that serendipitous, certainly. Providential, absolutely. It wasn't an accident, and you were the one to put the wheels of possibility in motion with your proactivity, with your clarity around intention. I'm certain of it. I'm absolutely certain of it. And now a door is open, and it is lined up. But if you way back here said, wow, this looks really tough, I'm just going to stay at the laundromat, right? I know I can get a job there again when I come back. You've created bigger intentions. And then you pursued humbly, what do I need to do? Oh, you need to get more education. It needs to be from the United States. It needs to do this. You need to do that. Okay, thank you. That's the roadmap continued, and you did. And here it leads. I just think that there's a process here that is so clear that you are participating in completely, and so there's no doubt the opportunity door is open. And so take it from there. Now you start working there.
Now I started working for my professor and doing research, and for a year, for 2.5 years, I worked really hard. I was a teaching assistant, and I was grading papers, just putting in really long hours. But at the end of the 2 years, I graduated with a master's degree in engineering, and I started sending my resume out again. And things changed.
Slightly different reception.
Yes, it was. I was like, wow, people are responding. So I had interviews with Garmin and Boeing and Qualcomm. But at that point, I already, and this was 2005, like spring of 2005, when I graduated from Oregon State. At that point, I already decided that Oregon was my new home. It really felt comfortable during my graduate years. What I did is on the weekends, I would just explore the state. I had a group of friends that we would just take off and just be outdoors, be out in nature. It was the most effective way for us to clear our minds, reset everything, and then we can come back fresh next week and continue the research. So I knew the state, and I loved everything about it. I loved how close we were to the ocean, and that was one of my big dreams growing up, just reaching the ocean. The mountains, it reminded me of my homeland in Romania. I wanted to stay here. So quickly weeded out the opportunities. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to move to San Diego. I didn't want to move up to Seattle. So my goal was to find something in Portland. Then I had a couple interviews with Intel. And then I had an interview with Nikon. And they quickly offered me a job to be a service engineer for their microchip manufacturing equipment. And that was unbelievable. That was just everything that I dreamed of. it was very interesting because, and this is another thing that I think about, is sometimes we have to, when we have visions, when we focus on achieving something, along the way we have to be adaptable, and we have to be adaptable for changes or course correction. But having that vision, having that goal is so important, because that's what's going to lead us to achieving it.
Right.
So I remember when I was a student back in Romania, I always wanted to work for an international company. Back then, I studied German, and I thought that Germany and a German engineering firm is going to be one of those companies that will allow me to step outside of Romania and be in the West and travel the world with my job. So I always had that vision. I always wanted to work for an international company. And here I am, 8 years later. I was hired by an international company, Nikon, which is a Japanese company, but really the goal is the same.
Yes.
And I found myself fulfilling that dream of mine. And I remember after I got my citizenship in 2006, I got my first passport. And that feeling of I'm free now to travel anywhere I want with the U.S. passport, that alone opened the world for me. And then working for Nikon really allowed to travel everywhere. Like I filled up that passport. Those passports have 10-year validities, but I traveled so much for work and pleasure that I had to change my passport within 8 years because it was full with stamps. So really, at that point, I was really just living the dream that I always imagined for myself, working at the cutting edge of technology, walking into the Intel fab with these multi-million-dollar equipment, and these OHV vehicles carrying the microchip wafers, and at all, it's like, wow, I can't believe that I'm here. I think my father would be very proud of me. And every time, I worked there for 17 years, and every time I would walk into that fab, I would put on my bunny suit, I would still be at awe, like every day. It's like, wow, I can't believe that I work in this cutting edge industry with amazing, talented people. Like, and I was so grateful. I was so just on high five all the time, just writing the dream that I always imagined myself, and traveling the world, living in Japan for a year for a project that I was recruited on, working in Israel, working in Ireland, different parts of United States, going to conferences. It was everything that I dreamed of and more.
Connect the dots between these two things. Your now world traveling experience and your love and your heart around water. Water, people think, are we talking water out of the faucet? No, go ahead, take it from there. I know the answer to this, but I just love the way you think on and process water.
Wow, water. I believe water is my element, but water is the essence of life. What I've seen and what I've experienced, just being close to water or being in water is it showed me the importance and the essence of water and how it all originates every life on Earth. And yes, 70% of the Earth is surrounded with water. Our bodies are 65 to 75% water. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And my family, we always vacation at hot spring resorts. Like my mom and dad, we were for the first couple of years that I remember, we set up tents. And we would go to these hot spring resorts, and that's where we spent our holidays. And every summer, my parents and my cousins, we would go down to the Black Sea and spend 2 weeks at the Black Sea. And we had a river flowing through my hometown, and I spent endless time in the river fishing with my bare hands. I learned how to catch fish with my bare hands. It was so fun. My father's quiet time and rejuvenation time was fishing. So he would go down to the nearby lake, and I never understood because he said, "I'm going fishing," and then he was gone all day, and he'll come back home and didn't catch anything.
Without fish.
Without fish. It's like, okay, well, you went fishing. Where's the fish? It's like, son, I did not say that I'm going to go catch some fish. I went fishing, and I was fishing all day. And he came back happy as he could be. And I think that's when I understood. It's like, wow, what did that mean to him? Just sitting by the lake by himself. And oftentimes I would join him, and it was boring to sit there all day.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it as much. But I was always exposed to water in a way that that provided this. I saw the calming results of the water and the effects on my father. And then all of our vacationing was at water or hot springs. So I really made a quest sort of in life that everywhere I travel, I'm looking for hot springs. I'm looking for fresh sources of water where I can immerse myself in. So throughout these travels with work or pleasure, the goal was always to find a local hot spring or a water source that was unique to the region. The other thing is that one of my favorite authors, a Hungarian poet, he grew up very close to my hometown, and he wrote a poem starting from a creek that flew into the river that was flowing through my hometown, and the next river, and the Danube, and then the Black Sea that connected with the oceans. So starting from that creek, you start there, and you just follow and go with the flow. I like to use this this word often. Like, you just go with the flow, and then you end up at the mighty ocean. So every time, this is my ultimate grounding, is every time I go down to the ocean, I have to go into the water, and then I recite this poem that I started at this creek, and then I ended up in the mighty ocean, overcoming all the obstacles that were put along the way. But here I am at the mighty ocean. So it's it gives me this sense of accomplishment. Like that's I'm in it. I'm at the ocean.
And such philosophical connection to every place, every person, everything. When you can wade out into an ocean and recognize that you could follow the path of water anywhere. People think, how do you do that if something's landlocked? Well, there's the streams that lead to the rivers, that lead to the reservoirs, that lead to that. Oh, there's a water path all the way to the mighty ocean, and that water connects it all, like little capillaries and veins in the body. It all eventually becomes an artery, and eventually becomes, it connects us. I think that philosophical reality explains part of you, Robert, that I can't think of a human being that I've ever met that you couldn't have a surreal connection with in relatively short order because of the way you look at the world, the way you look at our connectivity. Your philosophy allows you to connect. So a gifted portrait photographer, a very wonderful close friend of mine named Rick Chapman. He spoke at the All-Star. Smithsonian has a permanent collection of his work. That's how good he is. But oftentimes he gets 1 to 3 minutes to photograph individuals. Never having seen or met them before, he's brought in a very short period of time, he has to connect and get the most amazing photograph of Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan or Fidel Castro, who he's taken pictures of all of them. Short period of time. How do you connect with humanity quickly and deeply? I think that somehow your philosophy around water connects us all. You see connection everywhere. Where oftentimes people see you and I are nothing alike. We're different people. I've never seen anybody have that reaction to you. And I've been around you a lot. I've watched you in action a lot as a TA at Power Players a couple times. And watching your connectivity with people, it's a philosophical belief system that allows you to do that. And I think your thoughts around water have a lot to do with how you approach people in the world. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Take me back to working with all of this amazing, incredible equipment, using your master's degree. You were known for much more, at least your takeaway from that experience, as I understand it, is as much about people and relationship as it was about the work you were doing. A lot of years in a bunny suit, working with a lot of people, doing amazing technological things, but transitioning from there was a challenging or difficult decision, mainly because of the people. Am I right about that?
Yeah. It's it became my family. It became my community. The people that I work with at Nikon and Intel, the connection that I made there. That it's really those are the reasons that I felt good. And working there, it's because of those people. Most people I started at the same time. If I didn't, I was always the one who mentored the the newcomers, just because I had a good positive approach to work and the environment. So I always would get them under my wing. But the community, my friends, that we worked 12-hour shifts, and oftentimes we were taken apart, let's say, similarly to an airplane engine that we took apart, and then we had to be meticulous about, because if we couldn't finish it within the 12-hour shift, then we would have to pass it on to night shift that was coming in. So that there had to be this trust between passing the work to the other shift, where these really tight relationships were formed, and it was really, I mean, I'm still very connected with all of my friends, with my managers. I remember when I left Nikon, I called each manager first, and I just wanted to talk to them and tell them that I was leaving, and not just send out an email to them. So it was very important for me that I communicated that personally with them, and it wasn't really anything with that environment other than my life shifted and changed after 17 years. And I'm still friends with those people,
Right,
and
of course.
and I miss them dearly. But the change had to happen.
Talk to me about that, because I first met you in your last couple of years of that world, because you were already starting to pursue some knowledge and some expertise in the world of being a real estate entrepreneur, and so talk to me about that transition and where that happened, and our first encounters together, and your world now as a real estate entrepreneur is full on and full time and going. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, the last couple of years, I'll backtrack a little bit. I've seen you first talk in 2009. You had a 1-day seminar in Portland, and that's when I was very interested in real estate. I somehow figured out that owning real estate is a good thing, and I just wanted to know more about it. So I started hanging out at the real estate associations meetings, and then you came down to Portland as a guest speaker. So that's how I met you, and I really tuned in and felt aligned with your philosophical view of life and work, and just the novelty ways of or different ways of doing real estate. So this was 2009, and I studied everything that I could from you, but I knew that I was happy with my work environment. I was living my dream job, but I wanted to do real estate on the side. So fast track to 19, and we've connected several times through meetings or real estate events. But fast track to 2020 is when I knew that something had to change. At that point, I've purchased a couple houses, and we opened a senior care home, and things were shifting for me. I wasn't as comfortable with my job environment. What I needed is more time away. I felt like I spent a lot of time working in my bunny suit, 12-hour shifts. Like sometimes when I would work 5 days, I would not see my son for those days because I was gone by 6 a.m. I didn't get home till 8 p.m.
Right.
And I felt like I was missing out. And this notion that I lost my father when I was 13 and he was 40 when he passed away. So I couldn't lose any more time out of my life and my son's life, really, because then I would purposefully missing it, where I could give millions to spend or to have had more time with my father. Now I have everything in my ability to make that happen for my son. So that was one of the major deciding factors. It's like something has to change. I need to be more present.
The currency of time.
Yeah. And I knew from the very beginning that Power Players intensive was something that I had intentionally wanting to attend when I was ready. Because I've seen.
You knew a lot of power players at that point from the Portland area.
Yeah, I knew many power players. Many successful people, and they all had this common denominator of being power players, being going through the experience that provides, and I was ready. I was ready to make the change, and in 2020, summer of 2020 in Coeur d'Alene, I attended my first Power Player intensive, and that really just allowed me to make the shift in my head and allowed me to purposefully start transitioning from where I was into leaving the corporate world behind and allowing to take my time in my hands. That summer, I started focusing more on right after Power Players. It's like I was strategically planning my move from corporate America, and it took 2 years actually to transition out of it, just because I like risk, but I like calculated risk.
You're a planner.
I'm a planner.
And yet, to me, that's the perfect model. You want to feel as though one train that you're wanting to be on is up to speed and has momentum and is going, doesn't necessarily have to be going as fast, but at least it's really in motion. To when you step from this one to this one, it's not like jumping off to a stopped train. It's moving. And the momentum of knowledge, of intention, of the network, of the team, of all of these things that needed to be set up to be successful when you step from one to the other. A lot of years here, a lot of expertise to get this train running. This is relatively new, but you made that transition. And one of the first properties that was in that transition, we affectionately call the International House, which goes back to roots of community and a vision that served you when you first came here. I want you to talk a little about the heart behind the International House and that property specifically.
It's a unique property in a sense that it has 13 units. Out of the 13, there's a two-bedroom apartment. There are 2 studios that have their own bathroom and kitchenette, and 10 studios are so-called SRO studios, single resident occupancy studios, that have a little kitchenette in them, and they share a bathroom at the end of the hallway. A full bathroom and a half bath. So 5 of those studios on each floor share the bathrooms. Mm-hmm. But this setup, it really reminded me of the dormitory that I lived in when I was a college student in Romania, in Cluj. Mm-hmm. We just had 1 bedroom and a couple tables, and the kitchen was separate as well, and the bathrooms were separate. So it was nothing different from what I lived in for 4 or 5 years during my college years. Particularly this concept, so it was familiar for me. And what I noticed, that a lot of people didn't understand it, or they were afraid of going into this because of possibly being a little bit more management heavy.
Sure.
Right.
But you saw opportunity.
But I saw the opportunity.
Yeah.
I saw the opportunity here. And also, I saw an opportunity to help or provide housing for those that are just starting out. So I'm in contact with a couple international schools in Portland, and I decided that this is going to be the international house that's just going to provide housing for some of the exchange students that come here. This is sort of giving back to what I received when I first came to the United States. When I arrived in Eagle River, my wonderful friends Gene and Diane, they owned the laundromat. They embraced me. They waited for me. They provided a bicycle. They put me up in housing, gave me a job. Like they were my family here in the U.S. Sort of, I saw that now it's my opportunity to give back. How can I?
And that you can just see it on your face, the same way you've expressed that same sentiment around the care facility, the senior care facility, is that it's providing fulfillment to you to do something that is personal. It's significant to you. It's important to you. It's important to your mom, the senior care facility. This is a piece of your history and what you appreciated and what was really a good thing for you. You're wanting to continue it, to provide it for others. There's that word fulfillment, I think, is that, yes, it pencils. Yes, you have equity. Yes, you have cash flow. That's the engineering mind, the left brain mind. It's gotta work. But fulfillment is much more than just an income and an expense. It's are you doing something that matters, that you feel like you're really giving something there that creates fulfillment in a whole different way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With this building, I just have to say that the people that I'm providing housing for, they just starting out. I have a lot of people that this is their first home out of their parents' house. So I call it the international house, but it houses everybody. I have some international people living in there, but it's really for everyone, and it's more affordable. So this provides a good starting point for young people that are still in school, or they are starting out on their own and wanting to live close to downtown. Well, this is not downtown; it's actually in the Alphabet District, which
One of the most prime 2-block sections of all of Portland, actually.
it's where everybody that comes to Portland, they go visit the Alphabet District and Northwest 23rd Street.
Right. Right. Oh yeah, just there.
So it's really close to that hub of where everything is happening, and affordable for young people, people that work in the service industry or they are going to school. And it's a joy. Like whenever I get applicants, I like to give them the tour myself, because then I can just show my passion, and
Right.
I can show the feeling of the building as well. And they ask, like, what are your most relevant criterias? It's like, well, I really have one aside of the city mandated criteria, but really, I want you to be excited to live here. I want you to be happy to live here. So if that's done, then you can have the application form.
And I think, Robert, they see you. They see your heart in the matter. They see who's behind all of this. And so as a result, they're seeing more than just, a template of rules. They see the heart behind what you're doing here. And therefore, I would argue that they give you their heart. They come with their best effort to provide to this community feel that you're wanting here. And so your attitude sets the stage for them to give you their best effort, right? If you're I daughter T crosser, crack the whip rule guy, well, okay, that almost sets up a defensive posture. Now it's like, how do I break the rules? How do I work around this? But when they want to please you because of what you're creating. And so there's the center, the heartbeat of the community is you. And you set the stage, and you set the tempo, and you receive what you put forth for the most part. And in a world that everybody is having a rough time providing housing, and the landlord-tenant world seems very skewed in favor of the tenant, et cetera, and all of this dialogue going on, especially on the West Coast, Seattle, Portland, et cetera. Somehow you've dodged most of those problems, I think, with the way you approach it. That your currency is not just about rent checks; it's about relationship. It's about a different kind of overall fulfillment of objective. It's not just financial; it's much more than that. And I'm pointing out the obvious, I'm sure, to everybody, but this is, again, why you're leaving a trail of impact. Tell me about your role. And I've never asked anybody to even disclose what I guess I would call the kitchen of Power Players. But it's only a few people that have ever gotten the call to be a TA at Power Players. And you've been a TA twice since you have been there. Because of this giftedness, because of this way you see the world. Tell me about that role, not necessarily about Power Players, but about your role as a TA at Power Players.
The way I I think of it, and I was, um, when you first asked me to be a TA, I felt so inadequate because I didn't feel like I had all the knowledge, and compared to other amazing power players that are doing amazing things. But I did feel that I had something to give, and I think that was just my ability to listen and to connect and make people feel safe, understood, and allow them to be surrounded with a lot of new faces and start connecting. Because at the end of the day, I think when I think of power players, it's a life philosophy. It's a real estate acquisition and financing techniques, but it's a whole life perspective on how one conducts his or her life. And being invited to be a TA, I felt very humbled and honored that you trusted me with this ability to really look at this as a whole, like a life experience, and to stand and be there with my fellow power players and guide them through the different nuances of the learning process and the philosophy, and just leaning into the philosophy and of life, of how one conducts himself, how one recreates, how one rejuvenates himself. That is all part of this life that we have. Entrepreneurship is,
The success equation.
yeah.
I want you to elaborate on one thought. If a big part of where we go from here oftentimes is the process of, quote, getting out of our own way. In a very unscripted, you didn't know this question was coming. How do you help people? Because I've watched it. How do you help people, quote, get out of their own way? What does that mean? What does that mean to help someone get out of their own way? I've watched you do it. Maybe unconsciously.
What I can think of is that the way I connect with people, I tune into their frequencies or their resonance. Like I listen, and I pay attention and provide an understanding pillar. And with that, I also pour myself in. Like I pour myself in as who I am, and I think that what gives the people the comfort level for them to get out of their ways and be themselves. Because really, at the end of the day, is like the best we function is when we're ourselves. And I know at the beginning of this podcast, I was so nervous, but I feel like my energy has come to more of a calm level by now. And again, I think it's that energy at the beginning prevented me of being myself. Now I feel like I am. I'm here, and
The soundbite of all soundbites, I think, just happened. That in the end, the best that we can be always is when we are authentically ourselves. Trying to be anything else in any way, shape, or form is setting us up for failure. And I believe, full circle now, going back to your earliest memories, your earliest roots of a community that was together around, this is Robert, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, the parents, the community, the neighbors, everybody knows you and accepts you for, this is Robert. Nobody's trying to change Robert. They're all contributing. And that was I think that early on you became, because maybe you were so loved and accepted for your unique self, that you've retained you through everything, and through extreme adversity, losing your dad at such a young age. That's a crossroads. That's going to take you one way or the other. But it was because your own self was so established that you leaned in. I don't know. These are my theories. I've thought on, how do you become a guy like you? You make everyone around you want to feel a greater sense of self and a greater sense of peace, and you do it naturally. And by the way, you have a spot in the kitchen of any power players you ever want to be a part of, because truly you're just one of a group of people that have been asked to be in that kitchen. Wow. I mean, there's a common thread here. They're authentic. And I just think it's amazing, Robert. This started with a word, and the word was fulfillment. That it's so much more than just a resume, a bank account, a business plan that succeeded. It's so much more than that. And these always wrap with a challenge and something to consider. And for me, the consider part of our time together today is knowing we were going to talk about life and about the life source, and specifically this idea you have around water and its connectivity. I've thought so much about that. I heard you present your thoughts there first as a TA, power players, to a whole group of people, and it challenged all of them wonderfully that when we accept that we're all connected and that there's a way to connect to everything and everybody, it sets up an entirely different opening. Is that connection will lead you anywhere you want to go. Being open to that reality, being open to the most unlikely door that will lead to another door, door. The openness of it all and the connectivity of it all. And I know those are very deep and surreal thoughts, but your story has shown that in living color and in moving reality since the beginning. Your openness to all of the route. Consider that the way from point A to point B may be a circuitous, interesting route, but to be open. No, sure, here's where I'm going. This is what I want. But the connectivity, the resource, the people, the unlikely suspects that will get you from here to there. The ability to be open is what I want people to consider. That you think it's this freeway from here to there. It may not be that. It may be adversity. It may be new doors that you've got to pursue that then merge back toward a route. Belief that your life is extraordinary, belief in this vision, but how to get from here to there, that openness. I think that that's what's had my head spinning and how you've challenged me from day one. And I put a lot of weight on that. You don't always have to know the route. Yeah. Consider the opportunity and the route and what's being put in front of you. What are the resources right here? What can I do next? Wash dishes? I can do that. I can do that. Let's do it. I know how to do that. Let's do that. Which leads to this and this and this and this and this and this, which leads to this. I think it's inspiring. I want the world to know, if you're willing, how they can directly communicate with you. People are going to watch this and they're going to want to do that. So we can all Google you, but if there's a better way let them know.
They can they can find me on Instagram. The care home is River Villa Care.
River Villa Care.
And then my personal handle is Koyo Rob, which is Koyo Rob. And Koyo is a Japanese word for the autumn foliage changing, for the maple leaves turning red, and it's a celebration of the fall and people go out in nature and watch this transition. So it's the reason I'm saying is just it's purposefully chose this one, Koyo Rob, and also there's a Japanese legend behind the leaves changing is that if you feel like everything is falling apart, just think of the trees and their leaves are changing. When they are the most beautiful, they're gonna fall, but then they're gonna be lighten up, they're gonna stand up straight, and they're gonna wait for better days because they will come. Spring will come. So that's
a lot of metaphor in that chosen handle. Is that what they call an Instagram handle? Okay. Koyo Rob. Excellent. Robert, it's a highlight of life. You know, what tipped it over when I thought long and hard for years on even doing this podcast, because, who am I? Only big famous people do these things. That's not me. But what tipped it over was that somehow, some way, I've gotten to know and connect with deeply amazing people. And I thought that when I'm dead and gone, if my kids and my grandkids can simply take in the best of my life, well, the best of my life isn't anything I've done. The best of my life is who I've met, who I know. Mm-hmm. And if I can give them a slice of the best of my life, then okay, at least I'm delivering something of value to them. Well, I'm telling you, the world is going to benefit as they lean in and continue to watch you, continue to learn from you, continue to follow you. And I want to thank you for all of the impact and influence you've given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of my students and continue to give. It's unbelievable, the impact you've had on the community that I know. And I know you'll continue to do that. It's just your way. So thank you for letting me be here. Thanks for driving all the way from Portland up here to a crisp hangar. And And Ryan's going to whip up some lunch for us to tip off the day. But brother, till our next time, thank you for being here. And for all of you who are listening to this, wow. I truly mean this. If I were to drop tomorrow and this was the very last one I was able to bring you, well, this one's going to be hard to beat. If you really take it in, if you really pull the lessons from the wisdom of Robert Bogya, you'll be better for it. So thank you for being here. And until the next one we do, and I hope there is a next one, God bless.